So what's the best way to find or to check if a number is even or odd? So basically what we are doing here is we are checking if the number is this statement here or this condition is here is true. If it is true, it will execute even, right? And then we are checking if this statement is true. If it is true, it will print odd. Now, what's wrong with this code or not, why it is not efficient is what if you're passing number 6, okay? And then you're checking for this and we know it will be true, so it will print even. Now, when we know it's even, then why it has to even check for this particular block here? Don't you think it is assumed that if a number is even, it's not going to be odd? We are not into a quantum mechanics where you'll be having multiple states at the same time. So here it has to be one. Either it should be even or odd. How do we do that? And that's where you can do. Either it can be even or it can be odd. So odd. Okay, so something we have to use there. Odd. So we can say if this is true, then you execute this. Else, execute this. English. Else. So instead of this, I can simply use else, and that works. So as you can see, we are saying if this block, checking condition, if it is true, it will print, else it will print this. Let's try it out and let's see if it's really working. Run this, it says even. And now if I say 7, not 78, that's a big number to check. And you can see it says odd. But now I'll be saying, hey, how do we trust you? How do we know that if this is getting executed, this is not going to execute odd, or it will not even go to else? Now, to see the proof, we need to understand how debugging works. Okay, now first of all, what is debugging? Now see, when you talk about applications, now in your application, when you write a code, of course it should behave the way you want it. But sometimes when you write a code, you make a mistake, not the syntactical errors. Example, if you miss this particular colon here, now this is a syntactical error. Your compiler or your IDE will say what you're doing. Okay, so you can see all this red bar here. There's a red line here as well, which shows where the error is. And also the red, so everywhere you can see red, 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 and even if you try to run this, it will give you some bad words. Okay, so it says what else? I think you missed this particular colon there. So this is syntax error, and this is easier to solve. But when you have logical error, where you have written some wrong statement somewhere, and because of that, it is not giving you the expected output. Example, by mistake, if you say 1 here, the code will work. There's no compile time errors. It will give you error while you're running it. Okay, when I say error, it means it will give you some wrong output. If you know it is wrong output, you can actually see, hey, why it is wrong. But most of the time, you don't even know if the output which you're getting is wrong. And that's tricky. So, and that's why we normally do testing and all those stuff to see whatever, based on some inputs, how you're getting the outputs. But here, let's say if you want to debug. So these things, the logical errors are normally called bugs. And when you have bugs, you basically have to remove them. Find them, remove them. And the process of doing this, we call it as debugging, removing bugs. And as straightforward, right? And based on this, I have this very poor joke, but also it makes a lot of sense. If debugging is removing bugs, then what is coding? It's adding bugs. Every time you write a statement, it can be a potential bug, right? Example, this statement, I don't think there's a bug here, but this can be a bug. Or maybe if you're writing very complex software, every line can be a potential bug. How do we solve it? First, debug the application. Second, do testing, like unit testing, automation testing. You can do those things. But here we are only talking about debugging, so let's stick to it. So what's the process of doing this? Now, in most of the IDEs, if you look at the play button here, and if you drop down this, you will see an option of running a file, which is straightforward. When you click this, it will run the file. But also, you will find something called a debugger. Now, it's very straightforward when it comes to PyCharm, because PyCharm is built for Python. But VS Code, on the other hand, is built for multiple languages. You can use C, C++, Java, C#, Python, JavaScript. You can do everything here. And it gives you that flexibility that you can run a new file. If you want to debug based on some conditions, you can do those things. So it is straightforward button here in PyCharm, but here it says, okay, you have to debug. It might give you a prompt to select which type of thing you want. In fact, if I don't do these things from here, There's also an option here, run debug. You can click on run debug. It will give you this prompt where you can select, okay, I want to go for Python debugger. In case if you're not seeing this option, so maybe you don't have the Python extensions. How do I verify that? Click on these extensions and search for Python. Scroll down and make sure that you have Python from Microsoft as an extension. If you don't have it, search for it, install it, simple stuff. Again, when you install it, you have to restart your IDE to get the effect. Okay, so let's debug this. Now, I clicked on it, debugging, and nothing happened. Something happened here, it is printing the output. But how do I do this? So what you can do is, if you can see, there is, when you go here, it show you this red bubble or red color, red circle. This is called a breakpoint. In debugging, you can mention, okay, execute all the statements and stop where you want to check. So you can add a breakpoint here because this is where I want to check. Then you can go back here and click on Python debugger. And then you can see it ran till here. Maybe it doesn't matter how many statements you have before that, before this if, it will execute all and it will stop here because this is where you're adding a breakpoint. And then from here, you can run step by step. And this is called step over. So if you can see, there's a button here, which is step over. You can also do that from F10, but yeah, I can actually use, because see, normally when you are actually debugging the application, you don't want to touch your mouse, right? You just want to do that from the keyboard and say, okay, F10, 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 because you're focusing. But since I'm recording a video, I have this mic between my eyes and this keyboard, so I will stick to mouse. On the left-hand side, you can see we have variables here. These are all your special variables, and this is a variable which you have created. So if you have multiple variables, you will see that here. Again, when we go for loops, it will make much more sense. You will see more variables there. And this is where you can have some watch. Again, we'll see that later. Now, let me go for the next step. So I will click step over. You can see it is skipping the entire print here is because this condition is false. It is jumping to else suite, right? Now, if I make this 6, again, I have to stop it and I will go for 6 here. And let's do the debugging now. Or I can just say, okay, if you want to start a debugger, you can also click here. Otherwise, you can click F5 or function F5, whatever is there, run debugger and stopped here. Now, if I click on step over, it will print this because 6 is an even number. And then it will just jump out directly to by. You can see it is skipping this else part. If is true, then it will skip the else part. So the idea was to talk about debugging, which we are going to use this multiple times later. Oh, now I'm tired. It's time to take a small break and move to the next part. Maybe you're also tired watching the video. Take a small break.